Subscribe to The Honest Critique for current affairs, movie, book, and product reviews. Also, make sure you press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video. The views, information, or opinions expressed during the video series are solely those of the individuals and do not necessarily represent those of The Honest Critique and its employees. The following video contains strong language which may be offensive to some viewers. Viewer discretion advised.
Hello and a very warm welcome. I'm delighted to be joined by Rami Igra, who is the former division chief of the hostages and the MI unit within the Mossad. So thank you so much, sir, for taking your time and speaking to us. So before we move on to the finer questions about the operational details, I just wanted to ask your opinion on what happened on October 7. And a lot of people have mentioned that it was an intelligence failure. And from your experience working in the Mossad, was it a sort of intelligence failure probably of the Mossad and the Shin Bet to actually come up with any sort of proper warnings about the attacks?
The failure, there are several reasons for that failure. The first failure is the concept. The Israeli government over the years under Netanyahu had a concept that the way to deal with the Hamas is feed the devil and hope that the devil could live with us. They have thought that and this is a Machiavellian concept, nurse your enemy in order to fight another enemy. And they nursed the Hamas against the Palestinian Authority in order to avoid the starting of a two-state solution. Found out on 7th of October that this devil did not forget its nature, and the nature of this terrible devil is such that it acted as it did on the 7th of October. This was the first reason. And this was also the major reason for the Minsk concept of intelligence gathering. You see, intelligence, you can gather all day intelligence, but you have to somehow understand it. And the understanding of the intelligence was a wrong understanding. Everybody thought that the Hamas, yes, wanted to fight. Yes, the Hamas did whatever it did, but the Hamas was not going to attack. And this misunderstanding is the main reason for the intelligence failure. Second reason really is the failure of technology. The Israeli army relied on this on that border completely on technology. Everything was televised. There was an incredible sophisticated fence, etc., etc. It didn't work. At the end of the day, you need a little soldier with the binoculars, and technology can't take the place of that little soldier with the binoculars. And that is the second. This is the second reason. The Israeli society has always believed that there is a solution, a peaceful solution, with the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. The people that lived next to the Gaza Strip were mostly peaceniks. There were people that wanted to find some kind of solution, some kind of coexistence with the Palestinians. They didn't understand enough the hatred and the brutality, and I can't even express what should be expressed as the nature of the Hamas and its dedication to the destruction of Israel. If you look at the atrocities that were there on the 7th of October, mankind has not seen this kind of atrocity since the invasion of the Huns. You know, you're looking hundreds of years back. Still children decapitated, arms amputated. I just heard a testimony of a paramedic that came to collect bodies. She says she's looking at a 8-year-old girl with 2 hands amputated, and they looked at her and she died of blood loss. I mean, it's not even inhumane. Okay, it's worse than inhumane. And these are the reasons, the main reasons that were there on the 7th of October in the morning. And it wasn't really it wasn't really intelligence gathering, because Israel has all the intelligence needed in the Gaza Strip. One more reason that I haven't mentioned is that because the Israeli right-wing government was very much concerned about the settlers in the West Bank, most of the units that were settled, that were placed on the Gaza Strip, were moved for that holiday, for that weekend, to the West Bank. So in the Gaza Strip, they were left with 2 or 2.5 battalions, which wasn't enough to stop the Gazans rushing in. One thing that we have to say, their plans were much more horrific than they actually achieved. They wanted to go much further into Israel and have much bigger atrocities. Israeli army in the next, after 2-3 hours of getting organized, went down there, killed hundreds, if not thousands, of Palestinians that were in Israel, and stopped most of the atrocity. Nonetheless, the tragedy is horrific. 1,400 people dead. Many of them are young children that were in a party. They invaded a party and killed 270 youngsters who were dancing and enjoying nature, sort of a nature party. So the tragedy is horrific. We did stop a much bigger tragedy.
This brings me to the question that I wanted to ask you, sir, about the nature, as you mentioned, about signal intelligence, over reliance on technology. And a lot of criticism has been met right after the attacks that Israeli government has relied overtly on signal intelligence, and the Hamas operators, the commanders, got away because it was mostly a communication word of mouth, and there was no human intelligence in Gaza to actually catch what they were talking about and planning the attacks. Is that also one of the reasons we see an over reliance on signal intelligence than human intelligence in Gaza?
No, I don't think that the problem is this kind or that kind of intelligence tool. Okay, in this modern age, anything that happens in the Gaza Strip, anything is open to Israel, everything and anything, and all that was there was seen, but just not understood. You have to understand intelligence. It's not enough seeing it. There's visual intelligence, there's cyber, there is SIGINT, there is human, there's everything. The intelligence was there. It was plain to see, but somebody has to interpret it the right way. And because the concept in Israel, because the concept was that the Hamas was a band of hoodlums that, okay, they're making a lot of noise, they have great aspirations, but they don't have the ability. It wasn't interpreted the right way. And this is the main reason, interpretation.
Moving on from that, sir, I have spoken to actually residents near the kibbutz which were attacked actually. And they were mentioning that they have seen, for example, checkpoints of Hamas who were observing the citizens for at least a year. And obviously we have seen after the attacks that there were reports that Hamas was at least planning this for a year and a half. So I just wanted to understand your perspective, sir, that this doesn't then seem like a failure of intelligence gathering or intelligence interpretation for at least 1 or 2 months or the last 6 months. It's been a while that how the operation was planned.
Much longer. It's the interpretation of the Hamas, not only of Israel, but of the world, has been completely wrong for many, many more years in the last 10 months. It's it's the interpretation of radical Islamic movements. Nobody thought that the radical Islamic movements are similar to ISIS. And on Saturday, the 7th of October, we found out that Islamic radicalism is ISIS. This is the method. And we should not be surprised at what's happening in Afghanistan. Okay? What's happening in Afghanistan is really Islamic radicalism. And in and when we see what's happening in Afghanistan, we're all shocked. There's nothing to be shocked about. This is the culture that rules Islamic radicalism. It's unfortunate. And for many, many years, we thought that at the end of the day, the Hamas being fed with money, listen, we let 17,000 Gazan work in Israel. Okay, 17 every day they went to work in Israel, and they worked in these kibbutzim. We gave them livelihood. And these people, the same people, came back home, told their operators whatever they told. The information wasn't a big deal, but they were in cahoots with the operators, and they come running in after the Hamas on Saturday. Thousands of Gazans ran into Israel once they heard that the kibbutzim were taken over. And they came over and they raped the women and they killed the children, and they committed all kinds of terrible atrocities that I don't want to talk about because both of us will start crying, okay? They did all of this, and this is regular Gazans that 2 or 3 months ago were in Israel and we were giving them livelihood. Now, this misunderstanding of radical Islamism is at the heart of what's happening now in the Gaza Strip. And I will compare this to what happened with Nazi Germany. The World War II wasn't there in order to win a war against Germany. The World War II was there to eradicate Nazism and win a war against Germany. At the end of the day, the war would not have been won if Nazism was still there. And 75 years later, or more, we're talking about 80 years later, we're looking at the world with, there are many Nazi people in the world. It's not, let's not close our eyes. But there is no national Nazism anywhere, okay? And what we're here, the endeavor right now is to eradicate out of this world Hamas and any organization like Hamas. It's not only an Israeli endeavor, it should be a worldwide endeavor. You in India probably also have many radical Islamic movements, and you should open your eyes and say to yourselves, okay, one morning this can happen to us. One morning this, and if we look at history, it already happened to you. You look at the Muslim uprising in the past, it was very similar. Okay, we can't afford continuing this. We continuing living this way in Israel.
So, sir, moving on from that, sir, I wanted to understand a little bit about the operational side of what you see post October 7. Actually, how much of intelligence is there on ground right now to carry out the operations that have been we have seen through Operation in Gaza, the airstrikes, because a lot of Hamas infrastructure is well inside the tunnels. So how much of intelligence there is on ground right now about, let's say, where the Hamas operators are and about where the hostages are at this point of time?
The Hamas is operating mostly underground in the Gaza Strip. For the last 20 years, it built a whole city under Gaza City. The Israeli army is now encircling the Gaza City, and we will, at the end of the day, reach each and every Hamas operative in Gaza. We are talking about tactical information gathering, meaning the forces are a kilometer away from the object, and the object is underground. Now, the only way to catch a rabbit in a hole is wait at the end of the hole. And at the end of the day, the Hamas operatives will have to surface and fight, and they will die like they're dying now. This is a lengthy war. It's going to be a costly war. We're going to pay with the best of our children that are fighting there today. But we have no other option. It's not that like we can choose the worst of any evil. This is the only evil we have to get rid of. And the resolve in Israel today, and the Israeli public, I have to say, is that we're going to go the whole way, doesn't matter what happens. And this is what the Hamas and its friends like the Hezbollah should expect.
And when we talk about the hostages, sir, who are under the Hamas captivity, we have seen around 5 of them, 4 of them released, and one of them actually taken back. How much of
One rescued.
Rescued,
Four
sir?
released, one rescued.
One
Okay.
rescued, sir. By the IDF. So, how much of information is there about the hostages while the IDF is carrying out the ground operations?
The interesting thing about the hostages is the Hamas wants a ceasefire. The thing that the Hamas would like most of all is a ceasefire. They would like go back to the paradigm of once in a while a little war, and their continues strengthening themselves and going back into operations against Israel. This is over. This paradigm is dead. There is not going to be another round. All the rounds in the past are over, and the next round is the end of the game. How do the children say? Game over. This is where we are at game over. So they're trying to use the hostages through the Israeli public in order to somehow convince the government that what we need is some kind of negotiation and a deal which will include ceasefire. That is a non-starter. It's not going to go anywhere. They're not really understanding that the game has changed. They're trying to use the hostages in order to influence the Israeli public by releasing here, releasing there, showing videos, trying to convince the public that somehow there could be a deal. I think that the Israeli public has learned that this is not going to go, and the pressure there is much lower. Where are they? We don't really know, and if we knew, I wouldn't tell you. But what we are doing is we are collecting information. We have set special units to rescue these people that we can, and I would imagine that through the maneuvers in the Gaza Strip, there will be tactical opportunities that will let us release many, if not all, if not most of these poor souls that have been abducted by these animals.
And talking a little bit about, sir, the Gaza Strip, where the operations are being conducted by the IDF. Tell us, for our viewers, how difficult will it be for the IDF actually to carry on the ground offensive to release the hostages? Is it difficult in the sense lack of intelligence, or in the sense it's an urban terrain with
it's a war. War is difficult. Okay, the Gaza Strip right now has been carpet bombed in a very intensive way. Israeli army is maneuvering there slowly and carefully in order to reduce the casualties. It's a war. It's not an easy war, but in the end of the day, we will rescue as many as we can. I'm not sure there will be all, but it will be as many as we can. And the Hamas is not going to be there anymore. The heads of the Hamas are dead men walking, all of them. Not only the ones that live in the Gaza Strip, the ones that live all over the world. They're dead men walking.
So I just have a couple of last questions. One of them I wanted to ask you, right after the incident happened on October 7th, and there were videos that were surfacing of hostages being taken. Was it a very conscious decision by the Prime Minister and the cabinet to actually not rely on the intelligence to find out where the hostages are, how they are doing, and rather go out for a military operation in the first go?
I don't really understand your question, because there wasn't such a decision. The government of Israel decided waited for the first 2 weeks before the incursions for 2 reasons. One reason, give a chance to negotiation, thinking that maybe the Hamas will release all the hostages without any deal. That was a nice to fantasize, but nothing which was real. The other reason is to get the Israeli army ready. And there was a third reason. It was to carpet bomb the Gaza Strip and make the Gaza Strip available for the Israeli forces to move in. Each and every stronghold of the Hamas in the Gaza Strip that was above ground or underground was bombed heavily. And that was the three reasons why they waited. It wasn't for any other reason. It wasn't because of intelligence or anything. They're all waiting to get ready to go into this. Also, we wanted, and this is a very important thing to emphasize, we wanted to get the non-combatant Gaza citizens out of the way. And for the last 3 weeks, we have been pleading with these citizens to move south of the Gaza River, where we have established a humanitarian stronghold with water, supplies, medicine waiting for them. The Hamas has stopped. The Hamas uses these citizens as human shields and has stopped at gunpoint a lot of these citizens that were trying to run away. Nonetheless, hundreds of thousands have moved south and out of harm's way. And the ones that are left in the Gaza city, they're either affiliated to Hamas or they were stopped by the Hamas and their life is at risk.
And now we see, sir, a multi-front war. The chances of opening up are much more, with the Houthis actually declaring a war, and probably the Hezbollahs have not declared officially, but we see the northern borders flaring up now and then. How does Israel in this situation deal with a crisis which is multifaceted at this point of time?
I think the Hezbollah has understood that the Hezbollah has been trying to see where are the borders with us. And every time the Hezbollah raised a hand, we have cut it off in the north. It's a small, very light war of attrition with the Hezbollah. If the Hezbollah decides to go to war against Israel, I will go to Dirty Harry, the movie Dirty Harry. It will make our day. And I think that Israel is ready. We have enlisted 350,000 reserve soldiers. We are ready to take the Hezbollah on and eradicate the Hezbollah. And it's time that somebody get rid of Hezbollah as well. The Houthi are a small nuisance at the end of the world. They're sending missiles. The missiles have been intercepted. Israel has a very good interception system. And at the end of the day, they too will be sorry that they have tried us. They have been fighting against the Saudi Arabians for years. And it's time that us and the West will show them that them and their Iranian lords, that this is the end of the game as well. At the end of all of this, Iran is playing a game which is really the new axis, evil axis in this world. And this evil axis is taking us on. I think that we can fight it, we can win against it, and you will see a different world at the end of this game. Remember one thing, that Iran is Shia Muslim and the Hamas is Sunni Muslim. And they have never been good friends.
So before I let you go, sir, one thing that I wanted to ask you is, we have seen 50 years before the Yom Kippur War, where we've seen certain intelligence failure. And when we see this war as well, there is intelligence failure being pointed to at. What's one thing that Israel needs to take away probably after the war is over? One thing that Israel need to learn from this experience of what we have seen on October 7th?
Not only Israel, the interpretation of intelligence is a difficult thing and it's not foolproof, as we've seen in Pearl Harbor, in Dunkirk, in Afghanistan, and also in the Yom Kippur War and on the 7th of October. Intelligence is not foolproof. Intelligence can supply the information. Somebody has to know how to read the information. There's no doubt that at the end of the day, there will be hard lessons to learn and hard lessons and many things to change. And there will be change. The lessons will be learned. But this is not the main issue. The main issue that interpreting wrong the Hamas, we thought that this devil, this Islamic fundamentalist, neo-Nazi devil, could be fed and subdued. And we found out that the nature of this devil is such that it will every once in a while do the same thing somewhere else in the world. And it's our duty, I think, as a civilized world, to eradicate this thing. It's nothing to do with Islam. Islam is not radical. These radical factions in the Islam are not the real Islam. Islam is a different religion, and Islam is a good religion. And the question is, how do you deal with the ultra members of this society? All of us have ultra factions here and there. Okay.
So that's all the question that I had, sir. Thank you so much.
Good.
Sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.